Welcome to Selling Dallas Fort Worth. I'm Tyler Kreis, and I'm the owner and broker at TK Realty, and we're going to be discussing how to buy and sell real estate without a realtor. I know it's crazy. I'm a broker, and I'm telling you not to use me. Well, there's a lot of unique circumstances why there's a need for sale by owner, and oftentimes for sale by owners are only doing it because their first time using a realtor was such a terrible experience that they didn't see any value in it. Another instance is they need to net the most, and in their minds, the easiest thing to do to net the most proceeds is to just eliminate the real estate agent commission, and that's where they think their value add is. And I'm here to give you a simple process on how to buy and sell real estate and maximize your profit from how I do it as a broker and how I teach my agents. And today I've got a special guest with me who is also one of my clients. His name is Logan Hassinger, and he's been able to take these processes and buy over $5 million in real estate over the last 5 years.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tyler. So I mean, the steps you're going to get into have helped me buy property off market. Nothing I've ever bought has been on the market, so I am buying off market property. But when I go to sell, I'm typically turning to an agent because to me there is value in what you guys bring, and
All right,
happy to get into it.
Let's start with talking about how to sell your property without a real estate agent, and what are the important steps that we can take to maximize your value. Number one is you're going to need to research, set a price, and prepare your home to go on the market. When you're going to be researching your free tools, you can use Realtor.com, Zillow, Redfin. I have a free home evaluation tool that you can use that is in the bottom of this. There's a link that you can click. And you're going to be able to get within 3 to 5% of what your market value is. Texas is a non-disclosure state, so most of those free resources are not going to have actual closed data. And if you want to be more precise, it is really easy to call up one of your local appraisers and pay for an appraisal. You can also call myself and ask for a broker price opinion. Those usually start around $125 and can go up depending on how unique the property is. So we've done the research. We've looked at our closest comps, right? You're going to look in your neighborhood. You're going to look within 90 and 120 days. You want the same room count, the similar square footage. And the most important thing is finish out. If Chip and Joanna Gaines just designed your neighbor's house and your house looks like it's from the 1970s, it's not a comp. So be real, remove the emotion, and that's going to be your closer value if you're going to be selling it on your own. The next is when you are going to be preparing it and getting it on the market, you're going to need to walk in and know what to look for when it comes to decluttering. Does my house smell? This is where agents, I think, provide one of the most important values on preparing a listing is we can have fresh eyes. We've been in 1,000 houses. We haven't lived in this house. So if the house does have an odor, whether it be a pet or a certain cooking style, we can say, hey, I recommend getting your ducts cleaned. Hey, let's clean your carpet. I love your bedroom or your living room furniture, but let's move this love seat out of this room for a little bit because the room's going to feel bigger. It's going to be easier to walk. I am a big proponent to getting some of your deferred maintenance done before we list it. If your AC needs just a gentle tune-up, get new air filters in there, clean your gutters. If you have missing shingles, go ahead and get those shingles fixed, because once you have set the price, you're getting it ready, you're on the market, you've got somebody who wants to buy it, you go under contract and it's going to be inspected. All of those items are going to be coming up, and those are negotiable items. People are going to come back and say, hey, your roof's bad, it's missing one shingle. Well, no, you can have a roofing professional come out, tack on one shingle and give you a good report. You can clean your gutters, fix some leaky sprinklers. Even if you don't use them, the person purchasing your home is going to be using those features, and they need to be in working order. Um, so that is all the things that we do and recommend to get it ready to sell. One of your number one returns on investment when getting your house listed for sale is landscaping and curb appeal. You will get 100% of your money back if you can get your house to make somebody smile the minute they walk out of their car, because your grass is cut, your bushes have been trimmed, you've got new mulch, you have flowers. It is absolutely critical to do these things when getting it ready to sell.
And it's a cheap investment. I mean, you
Oh,
may spend $1,500 or
yeah,
maybe $500, but you're going to get every dollar for dollar up to about
yeah.
3,000. But yeah, landscaping,
You
that
can get
easy
3 bags
stuff.
of mulch at Home Depot for $10, and it will cover 20 to 30% of your flower bed. So call it $30, and you're covering all the dead leaves, you're covering
Hmm.
all the dirt showing, and it makes a $500 difference when it comes to just the presentation when it gets there. That goes along with the duct cleaning and just
Right.
deep cleaning your house. You want it to smell good. If you're a baker, bake some bread or cookies. When people
Yeah.
do it, just make it appear and smell good.
There's a reason an open house has fresh baked cookies on the counter.
Oh,
Um,
a
you're
100%.
you're masking some smells, but also providing a sample of some cookies to any would be buyer.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is critical. The next most important thing before you go live is have a professional take your pictures. Um, well, yes, realtors were the worst in 2021 and 2022 when a blind squirrel could sell a house. You could get a 1990 Motorola camera that had a plug-in camera and post those pictures, and it was going to sell because there was nothing available.
Yeah.
Today and in the future, as we transition into a stable market, one with options, one with inventory, you have to have professional pictures. And if you have an agent that says they can do it on their iPhone, move to the next one. Um, so now that we've looked at how to get it ready, what it takes, it comes to where am I going to post this online? And you have a few options as a for sale by owner. Yes, you can utilize Zillow. You can use Redfin. The easiest one, if you don't want to touch an agent, Fizbo.com for $400 will syndicate to all of your local MLSs. It will also syndicate across all of the other platforms in one and done. Their requirement is that you pay a buying agent's commission. That's the only rule, which most for sale by owners I found do on that listing piece.
Hmm.
Your other one that most people don't even know is a thing is a limited listing service with one of your local agents. That is where they can put it up in MLS for a fee, and your contact information. You're going to be doing the contract, you're going to be doing every single aspect of the sale. They're just giving you eyeballs. Surprise, surprise, 90% of new homes in Dallas Fort Worth are listed by an agent who has nothing to do with the contract. And he's a Guinness Book of World Record holding listing agent. And it's all a limited service for home builders who have their own salespeople to do it. Um,
Hmm.
and once now we've done your search, we've found your price, we've gotten your house ready to market, we know where to list it. The next step is you need to make sure that your house is available to be seen. And you've got really two options for that. Your easiest, that you're going to get most eyeballs and you're going to get somebody to promote it. Call one of your local agents. Most of our neighborhoods here in Dallas Fort Worth are farmed by 2 to 3 awesome agents that just are really good in those neighborhoods. Give them a call. Say, hey, I don't need your representation on the listing side, but I would love you to host an open house. And if you find me a buyer, I'm paying X%. That is a 10 out of 10 recommendation. The other one is you need to have your how to show your property clear on your description in Zillow and MLS, because one thing that's really hard to navigate when I'm looking at for sale by owner listings is the contact information and where to find it. And if you can put your hours that it's going to be available and your contact information right there in the description, that it's easy to
Yep.
find, the amount of people you're going to get is going to be exponentially more than if you just rely on the contact thing that you've got to scroll and go find.
Yep.
Is that anything that you've done when you've sold or listed your houses?
For me, I've done everything through an agent on the listing side. I did sell my own personal residence to a friend of mine.
So
So
when you sold that house, where'd you find your contracts?
I went to Trex website, grabbed the 1 to 4 residential contract, and
So I'm glad you brought that up, because most people don't know, especially for sell by owner, but Trek, the forms that I'm required to use as a licensed Texas broker are available free to the public
yeah,
through Trek. Now, you may not be able to go through and understand what is in these documents, which that's when I recommend you can call any local real estate attorney. You can walk into a local title office who can either refer you to an attorney, or maybe their in-house counsel will be able to walk you through and use those forms. Those forms are created to protect both buyers and sellers in the process. It has strict terms on what's negotiable, what's not, specific deadlines, and it helps you ensure a clean title as title goes through and does your work as you get ready to close. And for sale by owners, you guys can use whatever contract you deem necessary, all the way down to you can write it on a contract as long as
on a
monetary
one-page
values
contract.
exchange.
Yeah.
So it's I recommend talking to an attorney, using the Trek forms. They're there to protect you in this process.
I mean, I use the form simply to provide some security to my buyer while it was a friend. And most would tell you don't sell to a friend, but we both understood I was selling the home as is, he was buying the home as is, but he felt more comfortable using a Trek form versus 1-page contracts that I use on other homes.
So when you were able to find those contracts, you have a unique experience to where you've done so many contract or just transactions that you knew how to fill out the form.
Yeah.
You provided it to him.
I knew he needed the third-party financing addendum. I knew he needed a few other addendums, and so we included those and had them signed and filled out.
And how did it go from getting it under contract, like everybody signed, it's executed, when you as a non-licensed person, you're just a normal person off the street, you walked into a title company.
Yeah.
How did they take care of you? Any different than when you had
No different. They just, hey, where's your contract? And I provided it to our escrow officer, and she got everything rolling. She started requesting payoffs from, my mortgage company, got together with their mortgage company, who's the buyer side, and making sure all the financing was aligned on their end, and, just like a normal closing.
So yeah, and that's what is critical to this process that we want to try to illustrate, to allow you to not only maximize your profits in this process if you choose not to use TK Realty to sell your property. It's to make sure that you're protected and that you have the correct contracts, the correct contacts at a title company or with an attorney that's going to really protect you in the process. I just had one of my agents go under contract on a house, and it's actually a piece of land, and the seller purchased this land with just cash to an individual in the past, and there was no title work in between. So they had somebody sell the property to the seller that my agent is trying to represent the buyer on, and there was zero title work from that last transaction. Well, the seller had passed. Now it goes into a probate, and it goes into this entirely different thing, to where the current seller didn't even have legal right to the property because there was nothing on a deed. And that's why I stress to contact a title company, contact an attorney, so that you can ensure the buyer of your property equitable title and ensure that it's clear against any liens.
Yep.
And now I just want to really transition into your expertise on purchasing off market, even on market properties
It doesn't matter.
without a realtor involved.
Yeah, I mean the biggest thing for us, I mean, yes, most of our property was always purchased offline, and with a private seller. But I mean, every deal that we did went through with the 1 to 4 contract. It's just what made the seller feel more comfortable. Um, we have our own 1 page contracts that are a little more simple, but it just depends on your counterpart.
Hmm.
So we got in there. I did the inspections of the home. I walked through. If I saw anything that was above and beyond my expertise, I brought in a contractor. I brought in an inspector. That way I understood what I was walking into. I was generally buying as is, so I wasn't having to necessarily negotiate much, other than, the seller knew what he was up against, and I knew what I was up against. So just an easy negotiation there.
And walk me through, and I'll get into how I would recommend finding them. But when you were at the height of purchasing properties off market,
Mhm.
where were you finding them? What are the best tools to utilize for off market purchases when you don't have access to the MLS?
Yeah.
Obviously, anybody can use Zillow,
Right.
and you can go talk to a local agent and get their one home.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Um,
nice that Zillow and Redfin and Realtor.com all have, active listings that
yeah.
are on the
It's all
MLS.
it's
It's
all
syndicated.
syndicated within 10 to 30 minutes from our MLS. If I change an
Yeah.
update, it's going to syndicate over.
Yep.
So it's
So I
pretty
mean, I
accurate.
I could scan those and try to find a property that we were interested in. Um, but our things were identified, or a seller was contacted through direct mail.
Okay.
We had some parameters that we were looking for. We were generally buying property that were likely outdated based on some metrics that we dialed in. We were looking for out of state owners potentially. In the case of a Plano property, I knew the owner's address on record was different than the property address. That told me that the owner doesn't live there.
Yeah. An absentee
An
owner.
absentee owner, exactly. So um, now these methods were used 5, 6, 7 years ago, and they probably still work today. It's not how we get our leads, but we've shifted as the market
Yeah.
has. But that's what we were doing before: direct
Right.
mail
And
marketing.
and direct mail
And
had a big place. I mean, it worked
Mhm.
at one time. Now, it's there is different software that you can find addresses. You can go skip trace. You can
Yeah,
reach out.
batchleads.com,
Um,
listsource.com. There's a
yeah.
lot of different ways to build a list,
Mhm.
that a lot of investors know about, to
Agents,
help
we
build
use
that.
Remine, Vulcan 7.
Hmm.
There's plenty of different ones to be able to get that information. And one of the things I want to touch on is if a, if a, if you're on Zillow, you're on Trulia, and it's a listed property, right? It has a listing agent. It is being represented, but you on the buy side don't want representation. That's your choice. However, there's a pretty critical step that you need to do is one, when you're scrolling through those, make sure you only contact the listing agent, right? It will clearly say listed by
Hmm.
X, that brokerage, the ID, and then a contact information. D- Ignore all the ads below. Those are all going to be ads that people can pay for. Those are going to be people who are going to try to represent you on the purchase.
Hmm.
And if you are choosing, it's your choice not to use a realtor, just make sure you're contacting the listing agent, and you need to have one really clear message with them to ensure that you're going to be able to get the most value and that they understand that they're not representing you. Because how our listing agreements and everything work, um, there's something called an intermediary relationship to where most of us have it. Brokers, we can work both sides. I still refer mine out to another agent just because that's the right thing to do for my clients. But when it comes to the commissions, you want to make it very clear that your offer is based on zero buyer commission, and that you would like that 3% to go to the seller. You want to make sure that the listing under agent is communicating that so that they don't just go, oh, hey, I get to work less. I
Mhm.
found, I got a phone call online. Now I get to make 6% instead of 3, which we have a value. We are worth our 3%, 6%, whatever the fee is. We are worth it with our expertise and our time. But for you to achieve, as somebody who doesn't want to be represented, you need to make it clear to the listing agent that what your intentions are with your offer and where you would like that commission to go
Yeah, you're
towards.
providing value to that seller by giving up a commission for representation on your side to
Right.
say, hey, please make sure that this
Mhm.
is passed on because it's a value add.
Yeah, it's a value add. I can go in at, if you listed it at $300,000 and that 3% commission is 9 grand, I can essentially give a $9,000 over list offer
Hmm.
by just going, hey, we're $300,000, zero commission, and I would like that 3% to go towards the seller's proceeds.
Right.
And if the agent is doing their job, they're gonna listen to your wishes.
Yep. Yep. I mean,
Um,
that's a strategy we used all the time.
oh yeah,
So,
I used it on my personal house. Surprise, agents do get paid when they buy their own house.
mhm.
But we can also choose to waive it, just like you can choose to waive it if you're not represented. And Logan, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you would like to elaborate or share that could help somebody accumulate over $5 million in real estate in a short amount of time that
Mhm.
worked for you?
I think the biggest piece of advice I would give to somebody who's walking into real estate with maybe no background is understanding what you're seeing in a home. You likely already own a home, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're in an apartment and you just want to own real estate
Right.
for investment purposes. But having contractors and a really good home inspector to be able to go through the properties
Yeah.
and have a third party
Mhm.
review things to at least just let you know what you're walking into.
Oh, I agree
That's the
100%.
biggest piece.
Because like I've been fortunate enough to, and you as well, like we've walked not in 10 to 20, 30 homes. I've been in thousands of homes. I've read over 1,000 inspection reports in the last 24 months, and every single one is different. And it is critical to know what's going on in the home to make the best decision for yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that inspector is there for you as the buyer.
Yeah.
It's not trying. He's not there, or she is not there trying to, pass over things for the sellers. Like,
Right.
oh, don't worry about that plug, or don't worry about insulation falling
Yeah,
through over
they're a
here.
true independent third
Yeah.
party that is being held liable, as just as I am liable in the transaction. An inspector is liable for inspecting the house, and if they don't find critical elements of the house because they just didn't do a good job inspecting, they're held liable for those.
Hmm. So
And
that's
that's a good
that's what I
point.
would say is, have an inspector or, third party HVAC, electrical, those things, covered. And from there, you know your numbers. Likely
Yeah,
if you're an investor, you know how to walk through the numbers. So we won't get into all those details,
yeah,
but negotiating a price and making sure you understand what condition of a home you're walking into other than just
yeah.
cosmetics is key.
And as the price on the buyer side's important, one of the things I wasn't able to touch on earlier is when you're setting your list price, um, it is critical to one, yes, you know the market value, but you also need to calculate your holding cost. You need to know what this house costs you every single day, because if you're going to try to push that market value up and you have that emotional tie to the house and you're like, oh, I think it's worth $20,000 over anything that's been on the market. Well, that $20,000 quickly gets eroded in holding cost. Well, yes, you're living there, you're selling the house because you need to go somewhere else.
Hmm.
So I find it's very important to know what that holding cost is and price it accordingly so that you never have that period to where you are hoping for 20 grand over and it takes 6 months and boom, there's your 20 grand.
And as a buyer, I do that. I calculate the holding cost for them. I
Mhm.
assume what a water bill costs, what the trash bill costs, what the mortgage costs, electricity, and the lawn care. And I say, hey, over the next 3 months while we work through
Yeah,
this, it's going to cost you 6 grand.
right,
Now you're used to spending it, so it's not
right.
like it's anything abnormal. But I'm just making them aware is like, hey, you're asking for above market premium for a premium to the
Yeah.
market.
And there is a
You're
cost.
yeah, there's is a it may not feel real, but there it is. And when I walk somebody through that, 50% of the time it gets dismissed. Like, oh, I'm spending that
Right.
anyways.
But then
Okay.
they call you 30 days later and they're like, oh man, I just paid another mortgage. I got another mortgage on the way. My
Yeah.
electric bill, we're getting into July and August here. It's going to be really hot.
hmm
And
So, I mean, the different things like that to
yeah,
help a seller understand
right.
all the different moving parts that they may not be considering. So, I mean, we don't buy and sell. The average homeowner doesn't buy and sell a home, but maybe 4 or 5 every 4 or 5 years.
I mean,
Um,
most people probably, I mean, don't
what have
hold
you
me to
seen?
this. I'd say most people don't buy or sell more than 3 to 4 houses in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And we're able to do this 3 to 4 houses a week.
Yep.
So it's fortunate that we're in that situation to be able to do that amount of transactions, but it's also every transaction's unique and different. And the process from start to finish, while it may be similar, everything in between is different, and no transactions the same. So it's critical just to do your research, reach out, find help, talk to local realtors, talk to your local title companies, attorneys, watch videos online, and you'll be able to navigate this through yourself. And if you got through this video and you're like, oh man, I don't want to do any of this, I'd love to have the conversation with you and help. Logan, that's what he does. He can acquire a property. I have a lot of investors that can acquire a property, but selling is a different beast, and it's what we're expertise at. And I would love to be able to help you. Thank you, Logan, for
Yeah.
joining us today.
Thank you.
And if you would like any more of this information, I've created a simple 7-step process on how to sell your house and a simple 5-step process on how to purchase real estate without a realtor. It can be found by going to the website below, and I'll be emailing that out to you. Thank you, and y'all have a good time.